Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from and what time it is there. That way, YouTube will keep showing you more stories like this. Now, let's begin.
I once thought a mother's greatest pain was losing a child. But for me, that pain was the beginning of the most terrifying and haunting period of my life. I'm Beth. I live in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio, with my husband Mike and our 17-year-old son, Kevin. Our lives were peaceful until that July night. Around 2 a.m., a terrifying explosion shook the entire house. The pungent smell of smoke filled the bedroom from under the door. I quickly pushed Mike awake. "The house is on fire!" I screamed. Mike leapt out of bed, opening the bedroom door. Flames were already high, the wooden staircase ablaze. Thick black smoke billowed, making it hard to breathe. We crawled on the floor, trying to escape through the window. "Kevin! Where's Kevin?" my husband shouted. Kevin's bedroom was at the end of the hallway. I saw Mike rush towards it despite the spreading flames. I wanted to follow, but the smoke was too thick. I couldn't breathe anymore. I had to climb out the window, falling into the bushes below. I stood on the lawn in front of the house, watching the flames devour our home. The wail of fire trucks echoed in the distance. Mike was brought out by rescuers from the second-story window, his hands and face covered in burn marks. But he was alone. Our son was nowhere to be seen. "Kevin! Where's Kevin?" I screamed. Mike shook his head, blood dripping from a wound on his forehead. I couldn't find him. The world seemed to collapse around me. I couldn't accept the reality at that moment. Kevin was still in there, in that fire, waiting for me to save him. I had to go in there. I had to find my son. "Kevin!" I screamed and lunged towards the burning house. Mike and a firefighter had to hold me back. "Let me go. My son is in there." I struggled and wailed his name. Mike and I embraced, crying loudly. A few hours later, when daylight broke and the fire had completely subsided, only a pile of charred ashes remained. The rescue team searched through the ashes, but found no sign of Kevin's body. I huddled in the back seat of the ambulance, my mind in a strange, blank state. We searched very thoroughly, but the fire was too large, coupled with the high temperature, especially in Kevin's bedroom area. At such temperatures, even bones can be incinerated into ash. The words from a rescue worker made me completely break down. I stared at him. "What do you mean?" "I'm very sorry, Mrs. Coleman. We believe Kevin perished in the fire. Mrs. Coleman, I know this is very hard to accept." "No, no, no, no. My son is not dead. You have to keep looking," I screamed. Mike hugged me, but this pain was inconsolable. The first few weeks were terrible. Mike was hospitalized for his burns. I stayed with my sister, but every day I drove back to the house. I couldn't accept that Kevin was dead. I dug through the ashes, searching for any remnant of my son. I lost 10 pounds in just 3 weeks and had to constantly take sleeping pills and tranquilizers. After a month, when I could finally accept the truth, we started clearing the debris to rebuild the house. I continued searching. In the rubble of Kevin's room, I found his half-burnt desk. The bottom drawer was still partially intact. Inside, I found a notebook that had been slightly burned, but the remaining pages were still legible. My heart pounded as I realized it was Kevin's diary. I clutched the notebook to my chest, the pain making me burst into tears. After a moment, I took a deep breath and opened the diary. February 15th. Today I attended my first meeting. I understand that only we truly grasp the truth and can cleanse the world. I reread that sentence 3 times. My hands trembled as I turned to another page. February 28th. Jake taught me how to make a bomb. He said we had to act soon. The church is the first target. We will cleanse the world of hypocrites. I couldn't breathe. That's where we used to take Kevin for Mass every Sunday. He used to sing in the choir. I continued reading. March 10th. The bomb is ready. I hid it in my bedroom, Tomorrow we will place it at the church." I threw the notebook to the ground and crawled away. I understood what had happened. Could it be? The bomb Kevin made had unexpectedly exploded in his bedroom. He died instantly, and his body was... The explosion caused the fire that consumed the entire house. I wailed from the deepest part of my pain. My son was a terrorist, a member of some extremist cult. I had failed as a mother. I didn't know what my own child was thinking. "What did you find, Beth?" Mike's question startled me. I quickly hid the diary in my bag. Just a few of Kevin's belongings left. I'm picking them up." That night I burned the diary. I couldn't tell Mike everything. He had suffered enough. We still had to continue our lives in this small town. I would bury and end everything here. Watching the pages burn to ash, carrying Kevin's horrific secret. But I knew this wasn't the end. I had a responsibility to do something to atone for my son. I started volunteering at a youth counseling center. I wanted to help lost children, children who could easily be drawn into cults like Kevin. Every night I still dream of Kevin, then wake up haunted by how I failed as a mother. Perhaps that's the punishment I have to endure, not just to lose my child, but to live with the truth that my child could have become a murderer. And perhaps that's also the only way for me to find meaning in life again. I will try my best so that no other child will go down the path Kevin took. There are stories you want to forget, but they haunt you even more. I've tried to bury the memory of that brown-haired girl for the past 13 years, but I can't. I'm always regretful and tormented because she died due to my cowardice. It happened when I was 12 years old. Lily was my classmate. She always wore old clothes and had a sad demeanor. I learned from other classmates that Lily lived with her mom in a very small house on the outskirts of town. Life was quite difficult because her mom was blind. The beginning of the horrific story was a day I was late for school. As I turned onto the road leading to the school, I saw Mr. Anderson's familiar car parked on the side of the road, its engine still running. Almost every student at my school knew his license plate by heart. It wouldn't have been surprising if I hadn't seen Lily get out of the car. She stumbled, clutching her stomach, then bent over and vomited right by the roadside. "I don't want to repeat this again. Remember that?" Mr. Anderson's voice came from inside the car. Lily didn't answer, just kept her head down and continuously wiped her mouth. I hid behind a large tree, observing everything. Mr. Anderson drove away, leaving Lily standing alone. I didn't understand what was happening. Maybe Lily was sick, and Mr. Anderson was kind enough to take her to the hospital. But he left her here, and Mr. Anderson's voice sounded threatening. Mr. Anderson was a respected figure in the entire town. He had taught and was the coach of the state championship basketball team. Every summer, he organized free summer camps for underprivileged children. That evening, I told my mom what I had seen. My mom was washing dishes, then suddenly stopped. Mom asked me to repeat the story, asking if I was sure I saw Lily get out of Mr. Anderson's car. I nodded, confirming it. Mom quickly grabbed her phone. I sat listening to her talk to someone on the other end of the line. Mom recounted my story. I think something isn't right. Lily is only 12 years old. I was confused, not understanding anything. But when I asked again, Mom just remained silent and looked at me with a rather serious gaze. 2 days later, a police officer came to my house. He explained he had spoken to Mr. Anderson, and he said Lily had a cold, and he kindly drove her home early. There was nothing unusual. When my mom asked about Lily vomiting, the police officer replied that it was just due to the flu. He tapped his finger on the table, emphasizing that Mr. Anderson was a very reputable person in the community. Without concrete evidence, they couldn't do anything more. I saw the worried look on my mom's face, but she didn't say anything more. The next day at school, I went to Lily during lunchtime. She sat alone, looking tired. But when I approached to ask how she was, Lily immediately showed a bewildered attitude, as if she wasn't used to communicating. When I mentioned seeing her with Mr. Anderson the day before, Lily immediately cut me off, and there was even panic in her eyes. Sorry, I have to go. Lily left and I watched her go, and happened to see Mr. Anderson standing by the cafeteria doorway, looking directly at me with a cold gaze. After school, Mr. Anderson called me over. He commented that I was a good student, but sometimes excessive curiosity could cause trouble for others. Lily was going through a difficult time with her family situation, and he didn't want to see me bothering her anymore. Mr. Anderson placed his hand on my shoulder and squeezed gently. He warned that if he saw me continue to bother Lily, my grades would be affected, and he might have to call my parents. I kept my head down, replying obediently. From then on, I no longer talked to Lily. Every time I saw her, I would turn my face away because I remembered Mr. Anderson's gaze and voice that day. Sometime later, Lily started missing school frequently. When she was at school, she looked thin and tired. I noticed she often ran outside during class to vomit. Then Lily disappeared. That day, Mr. Anderson announced she was gravely ill. But for the next few days, Lily still didn't come to school. Then one day, the news of Lily's disappearance exploded throughout the town. The police searched for 3 days, and they found Lily at the edge of the forest, about 10 miles from town. Her body lay at the bottom of a cliff, with broken ribs and severe head trauma. Lily's sudden death shocked the entire town. Another horrifying piece of news was that they discovered Lily was 8 weeks pregnant during the autopsy. The police concluded that Lily fell from the cliff, possibly due to an accident. As for the baby she was carrying, they said they would not investigate to ensure Lily's privacy. Mr. Anderson was present at Lily's funeral. He stood in the front row, his face sad, his eyes red. From then on, no one mentioned Lily anymore, and rightly so, because she didn't have a single friend. Mr. Anderson continued teaching for another 5 years, then moved away as soon as he retired. Everyone still remembered him as a dedicated teacher. Now, 13 years after Lily's death, I am old enough to fully understand what happened. I understand why she vomited and was afraid, and I live with torment every day. If I had been braver then, if I had continued to care about Lily instead of turning my back, perhaps Lily would still be alive. But I did nothing. I just stayed silent and let Lily die in loneliness. Every time I visit my hometown, I go to Lily's grave and apologize to her. It all started when my father got a job as an assistant principal at a private high school in the town of Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Along with the job came a free house, just 3 blocks from the school. My family quickly moved to our new place. I was 15 at the time, incredibly excited for a new life. The house my dad was given was much grander than we had imagined. My mom kept raving about the spacious kitchen and the living room with its brick fireplace, but everything began from the very first day. I felt like something was off with how people in the neighborhood behaved. They still cheerfully greeted us, but their eyes avoided direct contact. My first week at the new school, I tried to fit in. All my classmates welcomed me when the teacher introduced me, but during breaks they kept their distance. Until I met Grace. "You're the new assistant principal's son, aren't you?" "I'm Grace. Welcome to Rhode Island," Grace asked, her voice gentle. Everything became easier with Grace by my side. She showed me everything about this small town, helping me get used to the new environment faster. Grace asked me how it felt to move to a new city. She listened very carefully when I spoke. "Can I come over to your house?" Grace's naturalness and initiative surprised me, but I was also very happy. I immediately agreed. Grace came to my house one afternoon. I saw her through my bedroom window. I was about to call out loudly, but then I felt a little curious about Grace's demeanor. She stood in front of the door for quite a while, observing the entire house before ringing the doorbell. When I opened the door, Grace didn't step inside right away. Instead, she looked at the space within with a distant expression. "Which room are you in?" Grace asked as we walked in. "The corner room on the second floor," I replied. Grace nodded. "So, you're in the same spot as he was?" I looked at her blankly, not understanding what Grace meant. She smiled slightly, then walked straight upstairs. I followed, feeling a bit confused. Even more surprising, Grace seemed to know the house very well. She pointed to the corner of my room and said, "Lisa's bed was here, and her desk was next to the window. Before there used to be a small bathroom next to Lisa's room too." "Grace, what are you talking about? Who's Lisa?" "She was my best friend. Lisa's family used to live here, but not in this house." Grace looked around the room with sad eyes. "Where is Lisa now?" I asked. "She died." The answer shocked me quite a bit. Grace said it again, her tone very calm. "A big fire happened. She and her 2 younger brothers didn't make it." A chill ran down my spine. 2 years ago. This house was owned by the previous assistant principal, the one your dad is replacing. After the fire, there were many rumors that the spirits of the former residents still haunted the house. People in town often avoided this place. Children weren't allowed to go near it. Now I understood why everyone had been acting so strangely towards my family. We were living in a house built on the foundation of a tragedy. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Lisa and her 2 younger brothers. They had died right in this room. I felt the air was colder than usual. "But that's only half of the truth," Grace said, looking at me for a long time, then said something that chilled me to the bone. Those words echoed in my head for days afterward. I begged Grace to tell me the whole truth. Grace hesitated for quite a while before she began. "Mr. Harrison was the assistant principal before your father. He had 3 children, Lisa, who was my age and yours, Mark, 10, and Danny, 8. Their family lived in that house for over 10 years. There was a student named Ryan Brooks. He was a troubled kid from a family with many problems. Mr. Harrison often kept Ryan after school, supposedly for tutoring. But what happened wasn't normal tutoring. Mr. Harrison had been abusing Ryan for months. Lisa, Mr. Harrison's eldest daughter, knew about this but didn't dare to speak up. Ryan cried for help. He told his homeroom teacher, even wrote letters to the school board, but no one believed him. Mr. Harrison was a respected, reputable man in town, and Ryan was just a troubled child from a broken home. One afternoon, Ryan couldn't take it anymore. He took his father's pistol and went to Mr. Harrison's house. In his private office, Ryan shot and killed Mr. Harrison. Ryan then set the house on fire to erase all traces, and all 5 members of Mr. Harrison's family perished. Ryan left a long confession letter detailing the abuse and why he had to do it, but it was kept secret to protect the school's reputation. Grace and I went to see my father to tell him everything. Dad listened and was lost in thought for many days afterward. He didn't ask again, nor did he express any doubt. About a month later, Dad announced our family would be leaving. Dad had other plans and wouldn't be working in education anymore. He placed a hand on my shoulder and smiled gently. I didn't ask anything further. Not because I understood, but because at that time, I chose to follow my dad. I chose to leave instead of facing any other horrible truth. Later, I understood. Dad stayed silent because he struggled with a choice, a comfortable life or a peaceful one. If our family had stayed there, the whispers and rumors would have continued. We couldn't live normally after knowing all the truth. My family moved away. Grace's family did too. Everything would truly end. The tragedy had taken too many lives. They needed to rest in peace. But I still keep the photo Grace gave me. Every time I see it, I think of Grace, my friend who endured that sorrow alone. I decided to tell this story because I understand that sometimes the truth needs to be told, even if it's too late. It can't change anything, just for the person carrying it to feel lighter. 2 months ago, to celebrate our 1,000-day anniversary, my girlfriend and I decided to go on a memorable glamping trip. Even though our budget was tight, I managed to book a newly opened glamping site in a remote town. Everything in the pictures looked like paradise until we actually got there. Contrary to its glamorous appearance, the interior was quite disappointing. In the photos, everything looked spotless. But when we stepped inside, The floor was peeling and looked unfinished. The owner claimed he had cleaned it 3 times before our arrival, yet I saw hair and some food wrappers scattered across the floor. Furthermore, when we asked for help lighting the charcoal for our evening BBQ, which we offered to pay extra for, the glamping owner just pointed to a torch lighter and a pile of charcoal already set up in front of the tent. He said, half jokingly, half seriously, "This stuff's easy, you can do it yourselves. Just let me know if you can't." Although his words seemed casual, his attitude was quite cold, as if he was trying to suppress annoyance. I felt uncomfortable, but with my girlfriend there, I didn't want to ruin the mood, so I just kept quiet. That evening, we had our BBQ. We breathed in the mountain air, sipped wine, and felt truly happy sharing that moment together. But the real problem started after we finished dinner and went inside to our room. First, the bathtub wouldn't drain properly. Then, when I lay down to sleep, I heard a loud flapping sound. I checked and realized it was the tent flap on the window, not properly secured, being blown by the wind. We couldn't sleep. It was a truly terrible night. You're probably wondering if I complained to the owner. No, I thought it would just escalate the tension. Instead, I left a 1-star review with honest comments. We cut our trip short to 3 days. Luckily, my girlfriend still felt okay about the trip overall. About 3 weeks later, I received a call from that owner. He apologized, saying he had been busy with the resort's soft opening and was late getting back to us. He claimed to have fixed the previous issues and offered us a complimentary stay voucher. I was grateful for his kindness, but also felt a little regretful for leaving the 1-star review. That weekend, we cleared our schedules and returned to the town. The interior of the resort really had improved, to the point where I wondered if this was even the same place we had stayed before. The owner even personally prepared a BBQ for us. His service was incredibly attentive, to the point of making us feel a bit uneasy. I found it strange. We were the only guests that day. When I asked about it, the owner casually said, "After that 1-star review, we were affected a bit." Seeing his nonchalant expression, I felt embarrassed and said I'd delete my old review and leave a 5-star one. But he replied, "No need anymore." His face, when he said that, was unusually cold. But just a second later, he returned to his friendly demeanor. "Enjoy your meal." I stared blankly as the owner walked away. Around 11 p.m., we were watching TV when we suddenly heard a rustling sound outside the window. I went to check, and a figure abruptly popped up. Both my girlfriend and I jumped and screamed. It turned out to be the owner. "I just wanted to check if you're enjoying the service." "We're enjoying it very much, thank you." "All right, I'll head back to my quarters. Just call if you need anything, okay?" He left, and this time, I started to feel genuinely uneasy. That night, my girlfriend woke up thirsty. I was drifting off to sleep when suddenly, a blood-curdling scream from my girlfriend jolted me awake. Rushing to her side, I was shocked to find a very large snake slithering across the floor. My girlfriend couldn't even stand. Luckily, she wasn't hurt. I quickly pulled her and we ran out, straight to the car. I tried to call the owner to deal with it, but he didn't answer. My girlfriend was completely panicked, crying hysterically, and demanding to go home immediately. I hesitated because I was practically naked, and all our belongings, including my phone, were still in the room. Suddenly, the owner appeared right outside, pressing himself against the car window. "Where are you two off to in such a hurry? You haven't checked out yet, have you?" I quickly opened the car door and jumped out, feeling incredibly frustrated. "Do you know what's in that room? It's a snake." "A snake?" His indifferent attitude truly enraged me. "How can you say that? Send our luggage in the room by express delivery or mail. We're leaving." Suddenly, he pulled out a knife and overpowered me, dragging me back into the glamping tent. My girlfriend stayed in the car, pleading continuously. We struggled fiercely in the room. I was injured on my arm and leg, and the bleeding made me weaker. He screamed like a madman. "You come here, use all sorts of services, and then give me 1 star. Do you know how much damage you caused me? Now you're using this snake as an excuse to make me furious." I was terrified. planning to try and escape or find a place to hide. But he lunged and overpowered me, holding the knife to my throat. His tone shifted abruptly, full of perverse delight. "You'll hit your girlfriend during an argument, and I, the witness, will get hurt trying to break you two up." As he spoke, the crazy man deliberately stabbed himself in his own thigh with the knife in his hand, blood gushing out. Then he turned and shoved the knife into my hand. Now everyone will pity me for being stabbed while trying to intervene. I was completely motionless, utterly stunned. Just then, the snake, which had been slithering on the bed, suddenly bit him with a fatal strike to his neck. He collapsed in pain, screaming loudly, "Snake? Why? Why is it here?" I was too terrified, so I crawled away trying to escape this horrific scene. The sound of police sirens echoed from a distance, and everything was quickly resolved. My girlfriend ran to me and cried uncontrollably. She had called the police. After the police investigation, everything became clear. Initially, I was very sure the owner had released the snake, but that wasn't the case. In reality, it was a hilly area where snakes frequently appeared, and that's precisely why he bought that plot of land for cheap. He's currently in intensive care and will face multiple charges once he recovers. My girlfriend and I were luckily safe. Since then, no matter how bad an experience is, we only leave reviews of 3 stars or higher. So please think very carefully before leaving a 1-star review, everyone. My story begins in the summer when I was 14, in a quiet town. I am Logan, a mischievous and somewhat stubborn boy, like any other teenager. I moved to the town when I was 10 years old with my parents. The town where I lived was nothing special, just a quiet place, far from the busy and noisy city. I often played with a group of friends my age. We spent almost the entire summer exploring the hidden corners of the town, searching for daring challenges to satisfy the curiosity of youth. Near my house, there is an abandoned warehouse, old, gloomy, and quite spacious. That warehouse always drew the attention of me and my friends, but at the same time, it also scared us. My mom once said that the warehouse was used to store something extremely frightening, something she didn't want me to know about in detail. But Mom's warnings seemed to be nothing more than passing wind to a stubborn teenager. To us, that only made the warehouse even more intriguing. We often played around the warehouse, sometimes daring each other to see who would get closer or who dared to touch that rotting door. But it all stopped there. There was curiosity, but also no small amount of fear. None of us dared to actually step inside. The warehouse exuded a mysterious, eerie aura, as if warning anyone who came too close. One day, while we were gathered outside playing, I suddenly caught sight of a shadow moving inside the warehouse. I looked closely and realized it was a girl, about our age. She stood there, between the dim light and the darkness, her demeanor calm, as if the warehouse held no fear at all. We all stopped, wide-eyed, unable to believe what we were seeing. How did she get inside? And why did she dare? Her bravery amazed and impressed us, but at the same time, it sparked our curiosity more than ever. The whole group decided to get closer, trying to see more clearly inside through the dusty old window gap. Each of our steps was slow, as fear tightly gripped each of us. As we got closer, I smelled a foul stench coming from inside, so strong and unpleasant that I had to wrinkle my nose. My friends started to shudder, and a few of them immediately vomited, unable to hold it back. My heart was pounding, gripping tightly to my trembling legs that couldn't run. But just then, I heard a frantic, terrified scream. One of my friends had fainted right on the spot. We quickly took him home in a panic. When he woke up in the hospital, his face was still pale, his eyes filled with terror. He said that he had seen a hand reaching out from the gap in the door, a pale white hand. We didn't dare say anything more about what had happened. Fear still surrounded each of us. The locals, after hearing about it, immediately called the police. A few mornings later, the sound of police sirens echoed through our small town, with engine noises and flashing blue and red lights surrounding the area of the abandoned warehouse. The truth that the police revealed shocked us and was beyond belief. In the abandoned warehouse, the police found the remains of about 190 people in various stages of decomposition. Many of the bodies were uncovered or only partially covered. Some of the bodies were placed on ambulances, while others were just lying on the floor. Other bodies were stacked on top of each other, blocking the doors in some parts of the building. Maggots, flies, and other insects covered the floor and clung to the bodies. In many transparent plastic bags, the decaying fluid had filled them, causing the bags to burst and spill onto the floor. Many of the bodies, including those of children, were placed in buckets or cardboard boxes to catch the leaking, decaying fluids. The fluid had spread across the floor so much that it caused officers to slip several times while moving the bodies outside. So the terrifying thing my mother had always alluded to, which was stored in that warehouse, turned out to be human remains. But it wasn't something that had happened in the past. It was still carrying out its purpose, unnoticed by any of the locals living nearby. It was known that the warehouse used to belong to a couple who founded a funeral service company. Because they didn't pay rent, failed to pay taxes, and were sued for defaulting on payments to the cremation service, the couple was evicted by the landlord. They were charged with corpse abuse and faced a sentence of 15 years in prison. As for me and the other friends, we have undergone dozens of psychological treatments over the past 10 years. Every night I have to use sleeping pills and sedatives just to fall asleep.
I'm Vincent, and I've been living a chill life with my grandma since I was 4, after my parents split up. My mom's got a new family now, and my dad sadly passed away in a car accident when I was 6. I went to college and ended up getting a job in the same town I grew up in. I didn't want to leave my grandma alone. She worked hard to take care of me, so now I want to take care of her. Since I was a kid, I've been tagging along with my grandma to church every weekend. I love the peaceful vibe of this small town. A couple of months ago, I met Katie at the local church on a weekend. She's beautiful in such a unique way. The features on her face are like this perfect mix of American and Asian beauty. At least that's what I thought. And Katie later confirmed it. She's petite, cute, but still totally stunning. Katie was the one who started talking to me at church. She was friendly and laid back, but also pretty cautious and private about her personal stuff. I couldn't help but feel my heart race every time I saw Katie. I couldn't deny it. I really liked her a lot. All I knew about Katie was her name and a little bit about her mixed background. I didn't even know how old Katie was. One day after church, Katie asked me to grab something at the Dunkin' nearby, and I had no reason to say no. We talked for hours, but it felt like only 30 minutes. Around midnight, Katie asked me to give her a ride home, since it was getting late. Even if Katie hadn't asked, I would have done it anyway, just to show I care as a man, and also to get to know her better. Something felt off from the start, but I was so caught up in the excitement of a new love that I didn't even notice. Katie didn't give me the exact address. She just gave me directions to drive instead. After more than 20 minutes of driving around, with Katie giving directions and checking her phone, I finally made it to the highway. But I didn't ask any questions. I was just patient, doing whatever Katie wanted. When I got pretty far from town, I suddenly realized I was on an interstate highway, and it was going to take almost 2 hours to get to the end. I asked Katie again, and she was totally sure about the route we were on. I didn't ask any more questions and just focused on driving. Katie got a phone call and started speaking a language I'd never heard before, sounding pretty cheerful while she did. I figured it was Katie's family, and I was right because she got home pretty late. After Katie got off the phone, I turned to her and asked if it was her family who had called. Katie looked at me, smiled, and answered with a dreamy look, "Probably." After driving a bit farther, she suddenly told me to stop because we were there. I looked around confused and was pretty sure we were still on the highway. Katie was sure and confident about what she said. She hopped out of the car all cheerful, walked around to the driver's side, bent down, and knocked lightly on the window. I've got a surprise for you. Katie waved her hand, motioning for me to get out of the car quickly. I was totally confused by what was going on, but my love-struck heart was too silly to think twice. I reached for the door handle, but then I saw someone pop up from the bushes behind Katie, which made me stop for a few seconds. When I looked closer, I was shocked to see a bunch of other moving things besides that black shadow from before. Katie's attitude totally shifted when she saw me hesitate. I whispered to Katie to hurry and get back in the car, but she got even more upset and told me to get out. There was a rustling sound from the bushes behind Katie, and then 4 tall guys in black suits rushed over all at once. I freaked out and shouted, "Katie, get back in the car, quick!" But those guys in black weren't after Katie. They were after me. Katie stepped back, crossed her arms like she was the boss, and watched as her tough guys kept attacking my car and cursing. Luckily, I locked all the doors and started the car real quick. I slammed on the gas, and the car shot forward, dragging one of them for a bit. I was freaking out, but it wasn't just from the sudden attack. It was also because of the crazy betrayal from Katie, who I thought was sweet and genuine. Every second on that highway felt like it was dragging on forever. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest, and cold sweat was dripping down my forehead, even though it was chilly outside. Every time I checked the rearview mirror, I kept imagining those dark figures chasing me, and just the thought of it made me shake. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight, my knuckles were turning white. I drove all the way to the next state, found a motel, but couldn't sleep at all because I was still in shock. The next morning, I drove home, totally out of it. I was thinking I should call the police and report what happened, wondering what happened to the guy I hit last night while I was driving away. If things went south, would I be the one who ended up committing the crime? I heard my mom's voice calling to open the door, just as she was still talking to me on the phone. I live with my mom and my 5-year-old sister in a small town. That day was the birthday of my sibling and me. We share the same birthday, May 17th, and are 9 years apart. Every year my mom prepares a very lavish birthday party for the two of us, and my grandmother would come to the birthday party with a cake she prepared herself. On that birthday, we waited a long time, but my grandmother hadn't arrived. My mom called her several times, but there was no response. The dining table was only missing my grandmother's cake to be complete. A few minutes later, my mom received a call, and immediately her demeanor and expression changed. "Where is that place? I will be there right away." My mom's voice became more choked as she spoke, and she quickly took long strides toward the front door, leaving my sibling and me in confusion. "Mom!" I shouted. My mom turned around in surprise to look at us. "I'll be back soon. Melvin, remember to keep an eye on your sister." Then my mom quickly drove away, and I locked the door carefully before going back inside with my sister. To be honest, I didn't like watching over her at all. Kathy was extremely loud, unpredictable, spoiled, and got bored quickly. I believed my mom would be back soon. About 10 minutes later, I received my mom's call. "Melvin, are you and your sister okay?" My mom seemed very panicked. "Yes, we're watching TV, but I'm not sure when Kathy will get bored and start being needy, so please." "Melvin, listen," Mom interrupted me with a very serious tone. "You must not open the door for anyone, no matter what. Do you understand?" "Yes, but what's going on?" I asked, feeling confused. "I will be back as soon as I can with you guys." My mom hung up, and I fell into a state of confusion, looking at the phone and then at my sister. She was still engrossed in the music show, while I felt a sense of anxiety and anticipation that was hard to describe. About 5 minutes later, there was suddenly a knock at the door, immediately capturing our attention. "Mom is back," my sister exclaimed happily. I quickly put my finger to my lips to signal Kathy to be quiet. It definitely wasn't Mom. She had a key and would open the door herself, never knocking like that. I hugged Kathy, turned off the TV, and the knocking at the door continued at a slow, steady rhythm. "It's me!" It really was her. It was definitely her voice, but it sounded so soft and calm. "Mom is back, Melvin," Kathy reminded me, and I grabbed my phone to call her number. "I'm listening, Melvin." Mom's voice on the other end was worried and rushed, picking up before the first ring had even finished. "Mom, are you at the door?" I asked skeptically. "No, Melvin, I'm on my way home." The sound of the front door was forcefully broken open. I immediately picked up Kathy and ran quickly to the nearby bathroom without even turning on the light inside. I locked the door tightly, covered Kathy's mouth with my hand, and whispered to her, "Can we play hide and seek? Whoever hides the longest without being found will get a dollhouse." Kathy eagerly nodded, put her finger to her lips to signal silence, and sat snugly in a corner, holding her teddy bear. The heavy footsteps grew louder, and I guessed the person was coming inside the house. I whispered into the phone that was still connected. "Melvin, it's me. The police will be here soon. You need to protect your sister and yourself, okay?" Mom started to cry. I sensed that the situation was no longer simple. Kathy was playing with the bottles in the bathroom, something my mom forbade her from touching every day. "Let her be. At least she isn't asking for anything right now," I muttered. "Kathy, Melvin, Grandma is here." This time it was my grandmother's voice. I immediately signaled for my sister to be quiet and then spoke into the phone. "Mom, Grandma just arrived, right?" "No, Melvin," my mom yelled into the phone. "That's not Grandma. I'm right next to her. She passed away just a few minutes ago." Mom broke down in tears. I was shocked to hear that news. So what on earth is in my house right now? The phone died and disconnected. "No, not now," I exclaimed in frustration. "Open the door right now, Kathy, or I'll unwrap all your birthday presents." Oh God, this time it was my own voice. Kathy looked at me with confused expression, took a few steps back, and burst into tears. I tried to comfort her, but I was the one who had completely lost my composure and clarity at that moment. The sounds of police sirens rang out, but I still couldn't be sure that my sister and I were safe. I held my sister tightly, curled up in the bathtub, shaking uncontrollably and praying. The sounds of the police and my mom calling only made me more panicked than ever. It wasn't until the police broke down the bathroom door and brought us outside. Kathy couldn't stop crying, while I was filled with doubt about everything around us. The police extracted data from the outdoor cameras at my house. Images of a strange creature appeared. It was tall, extremely thin with long limbs, and its head had two enormous speakers. "Siren head!" an officer exclaimed after watching the camera footage. After my grandmother's funeral was completed, my mom took us to live in a busier city. I never mentioned that birthday party again and had never told anyone about this until today.
I'm Ava, and I'm 16. It all started about 6 months after my family moved to this quiet neighborhood. My parents picked this place because it was known for being safe, having good schools, and a friendly community. Our next-door neighbor was Mrs. Allen, a middle-aged widow who seemed really polite. Her son, Joey, was my age. At first, Joey seemed like a normal kid, maybe a bit quiet and shy, but always polite when we bumped into each other. He usually wore big hoodies no matter the weather, and I rarely saw him with friends. My parents always said Joey was a good kid whenever they saw him helping his mom with yard work or carrying groceries inside. I can't say exactly when things started to get weird. Maybe it was the glances that lasted a little too long when we saw each other in the school parking lot. Joey always seemed to show up at the grocery store, the library, or the movie theater at the same time as me. At first, I tried to tell myself it was just a coincidence in a small town. I started to notice how Joey would change his schedule to walk to school at the same time as me. He always sat close enough to overhear my conversations in the cafeteria. His bedroom window always seemed to have a light on. Sometimes, I just felt like someone was watching me. My mom gently brushed off my concerns, saying, "You're at that age where everyone notices you. There's no need to overthink it." But I still felt uneasy, and that feeling wouldn't go away, which made me pretty stressed out. One night, my parents went to a company party and were coming home late, so I was home alone. Rain started to fall outside, and the wind was pretty strong. Around midnight, I finished my essay and decided to go to bed. The house was strangely quiet. I was so tired that I fell asleep right away. I don't know how long I'd been asleep when I woke up. At first, there was nothing but the gentle ticking of the clock on the wall and the sound of rain outside. But then, I realized another sound, a very faint breathing. I opened my eyes wide, held my breath, and listened. And it was coming from under my bed. My body froze. A cold dread spread through me, from the top of my head to my toes. 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind. Someone was under my bed. My heart hammered, and my brain frantically searched for a plan. I decided the best option was to keep pretending to be asleep while I figured out what to do. Trying my best to keep my breathing even, I let one hand drop naturally off the side of the bed, as if I was just rolling over in my sleep. And then, my fingers touched human hair. All pretense vanished. I shot upright and leaped out of bed, unable to stop the scream that ripped from my throat. At the same moment, a dark figure emerged from under the bed. It was Joey. He stood there in his familiar black hoodie, his eyes wide. In his hand was a knife. Time seemed to stand still for a few long seconds as we stared at each other. I grabbed my bedside lamp and hurled it straight at Joey. It missed him, but it created enough of a distraction for me to bolt for the door. I heard Joey stumble behind me, probably tripping over something in the dark. I ran downstairs, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear hurried footsteps chasing me. At the front door, I fumbled with the deadbolt, my trembling hands making the simple task difficult. Finally, the door swung open, and I ran to the nearest house with lights on, Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins' place down the street. I banged on the door frantically, yelling my name and begging for help. The door opened, and Mr. Jenkins' confused face appeared. I quickly explained everything, and Mr. Jenkins immediately called the police. My parents rushed home from their party. Police searched Mrs. Allen's house, and then, even more horrifying things were discovered. Joey hadn't just been watching me from afar. He had snuck into my room multiple times for months. His room was a chilling shrine dedicated to me. Hundreds of photos of me doing all sorts of activities were plastered all over the walls. In a journal, police found detailed entries about what Joey called observation nights. Nights when he hid under my bed and simply watched me sleep. He described the feeling of touching my hair, wrote about my scent, the sounds I made while sleeping, and times he rummaged through my belongings when I left the room. But the most terrifying part, the one that made even the police officers shiver, Joey had explicitly written, "Tonight will be different. Ava will be mine forever. We will always be together, in death." And he had brought the tools to carry out that plan. The knife I had seen, rope, duct tape, and a bottle of sleeping pills. During the interrogation, Joey confessed to all of it with a disturbing calmness. He said he had fallen in love with me the first day he saw me, that we belonged together, and if he couldn't have me, then no one could. He detailed how he broke into my house through a first-floor window I had forgotten to lock. More than a year after the incident, I still wake up every night, my heart pounding, imagining someone hiding under my bed. Joey is in a mental institution. My family moved to another city, but I know I'll never feel truly safe again.